Think we can get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Sweet, and I am the Associate Director of Education Entrepreneurship here at Pennovation Works. Welcome to Warm Intros. This series is intended to connect our local startups to investors and strategic partners from our network. And today we have Todor Raykov, the Director of Venture Services at NextFab Ventures, and Matt Bell, NextFab's Director of Product Development Services. Thank you both for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jamie. Thank you for hosting us once again. This is the second time we're hosting this presentation. Last time we had a great time chatting with some of the entrepreneurs at Pennovation, so would love to share a little bit about NextFab, NextFab Ventures, and NextFab product development. So these two entities, product development and NextFab Ventures, they're all under the umbrella of NextFab, and I'll give you an overview of what NextFab is in a second. But first, I would like to talk about the problem that organizations like ours are trying to resolve. So as you probably know, if you're in the hardware space, hardware is extremely difficult. I mean, it's not like a software company that you can start in your basement with a laptop. You need a lot of resources, a lot of capital to build these devices and go to customers, refine how the devices look, how they operate, and eventually commercialize this technology. So many people come up with ideas, many businesses start, many entrepreneurs out of universities are interested in building a hardware business, but it's extremely difficult to get access to resources like 3D printers, electronic labs, metal shops, and things like that that can help you build the actual technology. Also, raising money from investors is extremely difficult at these early stages, because in many cases we see people come to us and they have a full-time job, or maybe they're a PhD student and they don't really have the time to build a hardware venture. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to operate equipment and things like that. So in situations like this, a place like NextFab could be a game changer for entrepreneurs. So NextFab was started in 2009 as a makerspace. For those of you who are maybe not familiar with the concept of makerspaces, it's like a gym for innovators. People pay a membership fee and they get access to a lot of prototyping and manufacturing equipment that could cost millions of dollars. So again, it's very capital intensive to start a hardware business. So in many cases, it's a lot easier to go to a place like NextFab, pay a membership fee every month, and get access to a lot of technology and resources, and also other like-minded people who are also building hardware startups. So NextFab has a lot of resources. We have electronics labs, we have classes. People come to us and maybe they don't know how to operate any of the equipment available at our locations, and we actually have two in Philadelphia. So you can come to us. You don't know anything about electronics. We have classes. You can take these classes and you can learn how to operate the equipment in the electronics lab. Or 3D printing. We have 3D printers. We can teach you all about 3D printing. So you can create your own encase enclosures for your devices, for example. Let's say you have already worked on the electronics. Now you need an enclosing. You can build all of that at a place like NextFab, which makes it extremely convenient, instead of, again, buying all of that equipment that can cost you hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. We have metal shops, we have wood shops, and we have about 500 members across all of our locations right now. And some of these people are entrepreneurs looking to build hardware startups. Some of them are hobbyists, some of them are students. And it's interesting, when you're a student, for example, you have a lot of access to resources through your institution. But once you graduate, you typically lose access to all of that. So we see a lot of students join NextFab and they take advantage of all these resources available at our locations. What's also unique about NextFab is that we also have office spaces and warehouse spaces available to entrepreneurs. So let's say you just start your business and things are going well, but you don't have a place where you want to base your business. So a location like NextFab could be ideal for a situation like that, because first you have, again, quick access to these resources available at the location. You're surrounded by other like-minded individuals who are building hardware startups. So it's a very collaborative space, and you can really move a lot faster when you're in an environment like that. And the Penn Innovation Center, I think it's very similar because you also have other entrepreneurs building similar technologies or technologies that are hardware related, and you're surrounded by them and you can bounce ideas off of them and you can learn from them. You can attend events like this one, and you can make a lot more progress in a situation like that. But another thing that makes NextFab different from other maker spaces out there and other business incubators is our product development team. We have a team of engineers at NextFab, which Matt is going to talk about, and the services that they offer. So these folks, they're available for entrepreneurs to hire, and they can essentially serve as an extension of a startup. So, for example, you might be a PhD student, you don't have the time to join makerspace like NextFab and learn all the skills yourself. You can then go to Matt and his team and basically ask them, can you build this device for me? And then you can grab this device and you can go to potential customers or potential investors and raise the money you need to build a venture. But I'll leave it up to Matt to talk a little bit more about the product development services available at NextFab.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Todor. And yeah, great to speak with everybody. So as Todor mentioned, I think you can think of NextFab as having three pillars. One is the maker space where you can join, have access to all this equipment, the training, and work on your innovation yourself. The second one is product development, and you can engage our professional team, and you can think of us as a consulting product design firm inside of NextFab. And then the third is what Todor will talk about later with NextFab Ventures. But our product development services are built around helping early stage innovators and startups building hardware products. We've worked with a lot of Penn Medicine, Pennovation folks in the past, and those are always great clients for us, and a lot of fun to work with because it's always coming from a place of deep expertise in a certain field. Oftentimes there's novel IP that comes out of PhD research or deep experience in medicine or something like that. So those are great clients for us to work with, and we feel like we can really fill the gaps in your team and help you accelerate and answer questions about the product. We also work really closely with all the companies that we invest in through NextFab Ventures portfolio. Can you go to the next one, Todor? So as Todor mentioned, again, we have a small team, and we've got all the key areas of expertise for building and designing a hardware product. You can see some of these things here. Research and strategy, that's really all about understanding the foundation of the product and the business. You can't separate those two things. So understanding what's novel about what you're doing, understanding what else is out there and the value proposition that your product might offer. And then going through and identifying what are the key questions and the high risks that exist, and then how do we go mitigate those risks and answer those questions. So we try to take a smart approach. Working with startups, we know that everyone has limited money. You're not J&J with hundreds of billions of dollars that you can sink into development. This is about using your funds in a smart way to answer questions, de-risk the development, and help raise additional funding. With industrial design, that plays a big part of it. We're really focused on usability and what the customer needs and how to tailor the services and or the product to meet their needs. We do a lot of concept generation, sketching, rendering, things like that, and we work collaboratively, with our clients and try to identify, kind of find and reflect their vision for the product, and then you can go out and test and see what the market demands. In engineering, we have electrical engineer and mechanical engineering in-house. Also embedded systems design under that electrical engineering umbrella. And again, we're often putting together prototypes. We're testing, we're finding out what combination of design and materials are going to give the functionality that we want. We're determining if the product performs like we think it's going to, and do some of that de-risking. And then we have the in-house prototyping that just helps us move faster. We don't have to send out a lot of this for a lot of materials. Oftentimes we don't have to outsource. So the whole idea is that we want to make things quickly. We want to test them. We want to learn what works and what doesn't, whether that be from a customer or user perspective, or just like a technical perspective. Does it function? And then once you're ready, we have connections with manufacturers to help you scale up. So oftentimes we're helping folks go travel across the divide of, now I have 10 prototypes that function, and now I want 100 to go into a clinical trial, or to, you know, do a pilot production run. So we can help you do that. But with our connections, most of those are local in the Philadelphia region, so that you can go and participate or support the production, answer questions, and make sure things go smoothly. Next one, Todor. So we organize our key offerings in 3 primary areas. The first is an innovation sprint, and these are shorter projects, 1 to 2 weeks, where we're focused on concept generation or asking a key question. Sometimes it's research, sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's more market-based. But what we try to do is apply our resources to answer questions as quickly as possible. The next type, prototype, test, iterate. This is more when we're kind of rolling up our sleeves, doing design, doing prototyping. Oftentimes it's a box of wires or some hacked together off-the-shelf components, and we're testing, we're seeing what works, and we're working closely with our clients to dial in a design. And then the co-development are more extensive projects that might be crossing from an early proof of concept prototype all the way to, let's say, a beta prototype run or something like that, and taking big strides with the development and helping you, again, answer big questions. This slide just shows an example of a project that we did a while ago, and I think it's a pretty good example of how we can collaborate with early stage innovators. As you can see on the left-hand side here, the prototype that we created is not suitable for, you know, for any user to use on their own. So with the works like, oftentimes we're doing works like prototyping in parallel with looks like prototyping, and then we're going to eventually merge those things together. But the works like prototype, you know, what technology are we going to use? We're writing firmware. We're making sure everything functions like it's supposed to. We're iterating on that design and making sure that the product meets the client's vision for it and for the product, and we're making sure that it also meets the user needs. And then on the looks like side of things, we're working with the client to realize their vision for the product and applying research and design principles to try to get to the point where we have a design that the client likes, that we think is going to meet the customer demands, and that's also practical to make, and you'll be able to stuff the electronics that you see on the left side into the thing on the right side. And you know, that's why it's important to have that engineering and design in-house together, working together, so everything's practical. Can you go to the next one? And then in this example, this was actually it's a proximity sensing LED nightlight for hospital applications. So some of the core technology involved being able to have the light sense when a caregiver is present, and then kind of slowly dim or increase brightness depending on their proximity. And we wanted to make sure it was easy to use. It could be installed in various places. The light was nice and soft and didn't disturb the patient, things like that. So after we finished the works like prototyping, we moved into a follow-on phase where we created a handful of beta prototypes. I think we made 10 or 15, and it had better proximity detection, which was one of the kind of the core tech that made this innovation novel. It was reliable and durable for field testing. So we wanted to make sure that you can hand these prototypes off to someone who doesn't know how they work. They don't know what's on the inside, and it just functions reliably. And then again, we did a small batch of production, so you can see some photos there. Next one, please. And here are just a couple of client testimonials. The specifics aren't real important, but I think what I wanted to highlight here is that we strive to develop long-term partnerships with our clients and meet them where they are. We think of ourselves as a resource that, again, we can plug into our client teams and either fill gaps that they don't have, add expertise, or maybe just increase bandwidth if they do have the expertise, but they're doing a bunch of other stuff. Anytime, any startup is always doing a million things at the same time. So we want to try to take that burden off of our clients' plate and then help them reach their goals as efficiently as we can. I think that's it for me. Yeah, any questions about anything we've covered so far? Happy to jump in and answer. All right.
And we'll be available to answer questions. If somebody has a specific question about their startup, we'll be available for office hours after this presentation. Jamie, what will be the best way for people to schedule a meeting with us if they want to talk a little bit more?
Feel free to just message me and we can connect.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions from Matt before we go to the next section of the presentation? No. All right. All right, so I'll talk about NextFab Ventures. This is the investment arm of NextFab. So around 2015, we started noticing that some of the technologies and companies started and based at NextFab were doing very well. Some of these folks were raising capital from large investors like Dream Adventures and organizations like that. So that was great. I mean, these people were using the resources coming from these investors, and they were essentially paying for services like membership or office spaces at NextFab. So we thought, oh, this is great. I mean, we'd love to work with funded startups, right? But at some point, some of these larger investors, they decided to invest at a later stage. And this meant that some of these early stage companies, they didn't have the initial capital they needed to build the ventures that would eventually hire people and rent office spaces and things like that. So at that point, we decided, why not invest a small amount of money into some of the most promising ideas and startups that we see. So we started doing that, and we saw great success in doing so. We were providing checks of, let's say, $25,000 in these companies, and they were able to leverage that and raise a lot more money from some of these more established investors later down the road. And the reason why we decided to invest in these companies is because, unlike some of the early stage investors out there, we have the competitive advantage of actually knowing that particular technology has legs and can actually be something that can scale. So hardware is hard, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't know what you're doing. But people like Matt and his team, they know what they're doing. So they know when they see a startup developing a hardware technology, they realize, oh, this is innovative. This thing can really scale. So at that point, we decided to start our own accelerator program. So we are running accelerator programs every year, twice per year. We were accepting 4 to 5 companies per cohort, and we were giving them $25,000 that they can use for all sorts of services at NextFab, or maybe they don't need any services, but they use the money for marketing or whatnot. So some of these companies were doing really well. Some of them became very large businesses, eventually hiring 30 or so people. So we saw a lot of success with companies that were funded at NextFab through some of our programs. Obviously, we saw some companies fold, but that's completely normal for the investment world. So around the beginning of the pandemic, we realized that some of the companies that were using our services at NextFab and they were raising money from us, I mean, in Philadelphia, I mean, there were companies that were very good at leveraging these resources, but we started seeing a lot of interest from other regions as well. And because of the pandemic, we started working with companies remotely in many cases. So they didn't have to be physically present in Philadelphia, which is something that initially we wanted these companies to do. But now we started seeing applications coming from New York, Boston, Texas, California, all sorts of places around the country. People were interested in the kind of services and support that we can provide. They were not only interested in using the equipment, and they were not only interested in basing their operations at a location of NextFab, but they were primarily interested in working with our engineers, because we've done this a million times. We've supported so many companies, and these companies are doing well. So this attracted the attention of other entrepreneurs out there. So we also realized along the process, as I said, we've been investing since 2015. We realized that the small investments that we were making of $25,000, they were good initially, but $25,000 for a hardware startup is not a lot of money. So we saw that some of the companies that we backed early on, the very first thing that they had to do once they got some funding and support from us was to go to other programs, other accelerators, and raise $25,000 from them as well. So you have to go to 6 accelerators, let's say, raise I don't know, $200,000 to get somewhere, to hit some of your most important milestones. So we thought, why not discontinue these accelerator cohorts and just find companies when they're ready and provide them with more resources. So essentially now we are accepting companies on a rolling basis. So if anybody here is interested in working with us, you don't have to wait for an application window or anything like that. You can just apply and we can go through the application process. And if we think that the company is going to be a good fit, we can then invest a certain amount of money and also provide you with some in-kind services so that you can hit your milestones. So right now we have about 50 companies graduated from our program. As I mentioned, some of them are doing extremely well. Some of them have folded. But some of these companies are very good at leveraging the resources of NextFab to raise money from larger investors out there. Because if you think about it, let's say you're a startup and you raise money from somebody like NextFab and you get the backing and support of our organization, you get access to all these resources, engineers, and equipment. If you go to an investor, it's like a stamp of approval. It's not like you have 2 people in a garage working on a solution. You have 2 people in a garage working on a solution, but you also have these experienced engineers and equipment that costs millions of dollars at your disposal. Essentially, you can use it, you can leverage these resources to build a technology. So in the eyes of an investor, this is a lot more attractive. And also, we do a good job, I think, in de-risking the investment for these other investors out there, because we can look under the hood and we can see whether this technology actually works or not. And one of the first things we do for these entrepreneurs once we start working with them is we start reaching out to investors in our network and telling them about this interesting opportunity that we're working on. And because it's early on, these investors have access to the deal at very good terms. So it's a win-win for everyone. The startup gets access to us, our resources, and also other investors. The investors get access to these exciting new companies and de-risk deals. So it's a really good deal if entrepreneurs know how to leverage all these resources. And again, one of the things that is different about us is that we actually combine these benefits and capabilities of a contractor or a product development firm and an investor, and all of this is under one roof, so you can leverage all these resources to build your company. And here are some examples of companies that have gone through our program and received support from us. So one of them is called Burrow. We invested in them back in the spring of 2018. They raised quite a bit of money from some prominent investors. I think now they have over 40 employees. They were using pretty much every resource available at NextFab. They were using office spaces, warehouse spaces. They got so big that at some point they had to graduate from our business incubator and get their own space because there was just not enough room at our location in South Philadelphia for them. And these robots that you see, they were in our co-working area. They were essentially creating a tripping hazard, although they were very fun to watch. But yeah, this is a great example of what a robotics company can accomplish with all the resources available in Philadelphia. And these folks now have offices in California as well. They are shipping some of their systems to prominent farms around the country, and also, I think, abroad. Another example is this company Andluka. They got some funding from us and a few other accelerators, and they were also able to obtain some grant money, which they were able to leverage and build the technology. And here are some examples, and the CEO of Burrow gave a really interesting testimonial. We walked into NextFab with $5,000 and walked out with $12 to $14 million and went into production with around 100 systems. So I think that's a pretty awesome testimonial. I really appreciate the kind words from Charlie. He's the quintessential entrepreneur in my view. Actually, it's interesting when he first came to us with his initial idea and applied for our accelerator program, we rejected his application. And then he pivoted, came up with another idea, came back, and the rest is history. So what we are looking for in a startup is somebody who has a very basic prototype. Doesn't have to be something fancy. You can come to us with a box full of wires, as Matt said, and this might be enough for us to understand what the technology is and what it's supposed to do. And we can take it from there. We can refine the prototype and we can help you build these nice looking prototypes that you can show to customers and prospective investors. The sectors we're interested in are clean tech, medical devices, and ag tech primarily. So anything that transmits data or receives data might be of interest. So this intersection of hardware and software is very exciting for us and exciting for other investors out there as well. So as long as you've raised less than $1 million, I think you might be in a good spot to apply for funding. And although we work with companies from around the country, we always prefer to work with local companies. And the reason why this is because we want these entrepreneurs to have actual access to our locations, because we can work with somebody based in Boston and maybe they can spend a few days in Philadelphia getting to know our engineers or brainstorming ideas how they can make the technology better. But it's always, I think, better if we have the team located at one of the NextFab locations, for example, so that they can get access to all these resources whenever they need them. Currently, we have two ways we can invest in a company. We have this 10+10 program, which is essentially $10,000 in cash and $10,000 in in-kind services. This is for people who are just starting out. Maybe they don't have much, but maybe they have a good team, good idea. We are able to support ventures like that. And our whole goal with this program is to get you to the point where we can invest the full $100,000, which is our standard deal. So the standard deal that we have comes with, we typically deploy the money through a safe or a convertible note. But if the startup has an open investment round at the moment, we might be able to join on these terms that the startup is using right now. We also have the ability to provide follow-on funding. And this is only for companies that have received some funding from us. So the largest position I think we have in the company right now is $170,000. And this happened over the course of multiple years and multiple investments. But typically the goal that we have is to find a startup that can get to $100,000 of investment of capital and resources from NextFab over the course of their experience at NextFab. So people can go to nextfabventures.com/capital to learn more about the ways we support companies and also submit their application. Again, NextFab Ventures is the investment arm of NextFab. The main NextFab website is nextfab.com. And over there, you can learn about the different membership opportunities and resources. And also, if you want to learn a little bit more about the product development resources, you can do so on the main website as well as this website. I mean, you can find this information everywhere. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that you don't necessarily have to be a member of our investment portfolio to leverage the resource available at NextFab and the product development team. So you can, if you're not ready to apply for funding right now, and maybe you just need to build this initial prototype, you can go to Matt Bell and his team. They might be able to help you out. And you also might be able to put you in touch with some local organizations that provide grant funding specific for hardware startups. So don't hesitate to reach out. We know that, again, hardware is extremely hard. We're here to support people like you. So if there's anything we can do for you, just let us know. That's what we are here for. Any questions about anything I've mentioned so far?
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
So really appreciate the presentation and sort of walking through the whole thing here. Since you guys do take people at like such an early stage as well of like, box of wires, can you talk a bit more about what are the criteria as well you look for in the companies when deciding if they're a fit for you or not? Since, that I would have thought it might be a little bit later in the process, but that early, what are the things that you look at?
Are you asking about the product development portion? Because we don't take every project, or just the investment side of things?
Let's do the investment side of things.
Okay. Yeah, so we're looking for people who have, people who have an interesting technology, maybe have some unfair advantage. Maybe they're industry insiders. They're very passionate about the technology. They are some of them are working full time. Doesn't have, and we don't need the entire team to be working full time at the very early stages, but we want to see commitment. If, let's say, you're a PhD student and your buddy is an MBA student, maybe you don't have the time to build this thing right now. Maybe you can't commit all the energy necessary to build a hardware startup. If that's the case, we're probably not going to invest. But let's say you have started this business and you have your full attention on this business. You're trying everything possible to start this company from scratch. This might be, a company that we would like to consider. But the main things are obviously the team, market, and product. If we have good things going in each one of these three areas, then we're going to consider your application seriously. But if you're not serious, this is just a side gig, we're probably not going to work with you. And probably on the product development side, we just want to see more commitment, and we don't want to work with somebody who, they have the money to spend on the product, but this is never going to result into really a scalable company, something that's going to deliver value to customers. We have limited resources and time and people, and we want to work with organizations that are serious. So if we see an application that is not there yet, we're just going to skip it.
Yeah, and just to add on, if something is too early, then oftentimes we would love to work with them to try to help answer questions and create the traction that they need to help be a better candidate for us. So that's something that's fairly typical. I like to be explicit about we don't know about we're not the arbiters of what's going to be successful in the market. So what we try to do is let's challenge assumptions and let's answer questions and get data. So that's oftentimes what we do with early stage companies and innovators who may apply and may be too early. And then the other thing, that just to add on to what Todor said, I think having traction both on the customer side and investor side are important for one of the criteria that I personally look for. And you're not going to have sales at this point, but we like to see having conversations with potential customers. Do you have a pilot lined up? Do you have letters of intent? Do you have hundreds of people on your newsletter who are staying up to date on your product? On the customer side, and then on the investor side, are you talking to other angel investors? Have you won pitch competitions? Have you, are you applying for grants or getting accepted into accelerator programs and things like that? So just looking for that evidence of early traction.
Yeah, in most cases, to get that kind of traction, you have to be very committed to the success of this venture. Another thing we're looking for is coachability. So let's say we have some initial conversations and maybe we recommend some resources, and in some cases we even make some quick introductions. We tend to track how you handle these. So let's say we make an introduction and you don't connect with this person for 3 weeks, or you never connect with them. How do you think this will result in? Do you think we were going to work with you at that point if you're not you're not following up with some of the folks that we're connecting you with? It's not a good sign. So there are so many red flags, and there are so many things that can go wrong when you're developing a hardware startup. So some of the folks that do really well, they realize that we have been doing this for a number of years. So if we're making an introduction, there is a reason why we're doing so, because we truly believe that this can help you out, because we've seen it happen before. So if you're not taking advantage of some of these resources and introductions we're making, we're probably not going to work with you.
Super helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions?
Todor, you and Matt, you kind of mentioned if somebody applies and they're not ready, that it's great because Matt, your group can work with them to build upon what they've already established. Can you talk a little bit, Todor, about the process once you click the send button on that application? Then what can people expect? What type of communication is typical for your group?
Yeah, sure. So the application process is very simple. You could submit this quick online application. The only thing that might be unique in comparison to other applications is that we ask for a 1-minute video presentation. And this could be just the founder or founders holding the device and just talking about, oh, this is the device, this is what's going to do. And just trying to connect with us. It doesn't have to, I mean, you can just record something like that with your cell phone. We don't care about the quality. We just want to see who are the people involved and what the technology is looking at like right now and what the vision for this technology is for the future. So once you submit this quick application, we then review them, schedule conversations with the entrepreneurs who might be a good fit. And then we have multiple, obviously, conversations. We have a conversation with the product development team. We talk about the specifics about the technology. We ask them for some additional documentation, like 1-page resumes of team members, information how they plan to use any funds we invest into the company. And the final stage in our process is a presentation to our investment committee. This is an opportunity for the entrepreneurs to just go over their pitch deck and also answer some questions. And our team typically makes a decision about the startup, whether they're going to be accepted or not, within a week after the presentation. So we tend to move very quickly. The entire process could be from a month and a half, but it could be 6 months. It depends on how quickly you provide the information back and when you're ready to move to the next step, because we might have some initial conversations, but there might be something else going on in the business. Maybe you're working on a few things before you can feel confident and more comfortable when you go and pitch to the investment committee, because the investment committee will have a lot of hard questions for you. And there's so many things when you're starting a business, and hardware startup in particular, that can go wrong. There are so many things that are missing. The folks at the investment committee that we have, they're going to ask all these tough questions, and you're probably not going to have answers to most of them or some of them, but we realize that this is the case. So we can punch holes in your pitch deck and your presentation, but at the end of the day, we're trying to do so that we can help you learn from this experience. And the next time you're pitching to other investors, you'll be better prepared, especially if they have some questions about the technology, because you've gone through our process, and our process is very focused on the hardware technology. So you have this covered, I think, once you go to some angel groups out there and answer some of their questions.
Thank you.
Yes, I have one question. I guess since your body of work is really up until that seed stage or so, what are the major sort of trends that you're seeing for companies that just sort of fizzle out, right? Is it just not finding the right investor for that next round? Is it something generally with the tech? What are the key trends that sort of cause companies to,
there are so many things that can go wrong. Obviously, running out of money is one of the top ones. Also, problems within the team. This is another thing that happens. But I think the main thing is the product market fit. Sometimes we see companies that apply and they have a hammer and they're looking for a nail. I think you have to basically come up with a solution for a specific problem. I mean, some of these entrepreneurs that applied, they came up with a solution because maybe they were developing something in academia, and they think that this solution is going to have traction on the marketplace. But it seems like many cases like that, they haven't done the customer discovery process. To Matt's point, I mean, you have to constantly talk to customers. You have to be completely obsessed about the customer and their problem and how you're solving that problem. If you have all of that, I think the money will follow. One of the things that we used to see in the past is that companies were running out of capital very quickly because they were not able to get in front of enough angel groups, enough investors out there. So nowadays, one of the things we do to prevent companies from running out of money prematurely is we put them in touch with other investors in our network, and we can then vouch for these companies because we've been working with them. We have helping them out on the product development side of things. We've been coaching them. We've been telling them to talk to customers. We've been on their boards. We've been guiding the development of this company. So these companies are much better prepared to go to investors and raise the money and scale their ventures.
I would say,
Yeah, and I
just to
see you
add
guys
on.
are-
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I saw you guys are a part of like Angel Capital Association too, which is definitely good. And I personally do a lot of work with angel groups, so it's definitely you got to find the right one that doesn't take like months to get back to you. So yeah, I was thinking that your geographic diversification during COVID could have made things tougher, but yeah, some of those syndication groups are helpful too.
No,
A lot of the times it seems like entrepreneurs just don't understand how long it takes to raise money, so they just gotta beat the drum, I guess.
Yeah, I think I forgot to mention this. We constantly see people come to us and they think they'll be in production in 3 months, and it's probably 3 years, folks. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. Matt, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say the biggest thing that I see that leads to companies folding is someone not being full time. You just, it's not practical to run a startup and do something else at the same time. It's, plenty of companies fail even with the full attention of a large team. So that's a big thing. It's just, it requires your attention. And if someone's trying to be a professor or a doctor and do this, or if they're still in school, they just often don't have the time. So that's the one thing that I see.
Great. And Kevin, it seems like you might be working with the New Mexico Angels. I know Drew was part of your group as well, and we actually made an investment in a New Mexico company, Hawk Spider. They're developing an energy storage solution. So this company came to us because we were able to invest in companies outside of our region, and they were able to leverage some of the resources available at NextFab. So I think in many ways, the pandemic actually helped us to expand our reach because we've seen with some of our partner organizations, they have limitations around the areas where they can invest. So some can invest only in Pennsylvania, some can invest only in New Jersey. We don't have that limitation. So as long as you have a hardware product, hardware solution, and you need help, we're here. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, I know them well, and well, decently well, and yeah, I'm based in Philly, but I run New Mexico Angels investment arm.
Right. And we syndicate deals all the time. So in December, we invested in a company. We invested $60,000, and we put them in touch with an angel group out of New York. And this angel group made a $650,000 investment into the company and allowed the company to close their $1 million round in a matter of months. So that was pretty exciting to see. So we always want to syndicate deals and help these companies get the money they need as quickly as possible so they can hit their milestones.
Hey guys, I had an opportunity to connect with Matt on a couple of occasions at like hardware meetups, and Matt, you've been super gracious to continue to, just talk me through some of my thoughts as a early stage entrepreneur and co-founder. I think I'm short circuiting here at like the point where NextFab is able to reach into the earliest stages of our product development and of our startup, but also for the accelerator, still expecting like startup founders or to be full time. It's kind of like I can't get experience unless you give me experience. I don't have enough experience to get the job, but you won't give me the job so I can get experience. I could speak more specifically as to like where we're at in the company, but I don't want to take up everyone's time. Could you speak to that, Todor and Matt, please?
Sure. Yeah, that's the chicken and the egg problem, right? That's why we have this 10 plus 10 program, $10,000 cash, $10,000 in in-kind services. That might be a program suitable for somebody who's just starting out. So it depends. So depending on the amount of funding you're asking, I mean, if you're asking for $100,000 and you're not full-time, chances are you're not going to get the investment. But if you're asking for $10,000 in cash, $10,000 in in-kind services, and you show some commitment, we understand that people, I mean, they have full-time jobs, they have to support their families and whatnot, but they do spend the time to work on this venture. If they can demonstrate that, this could be the stepping stone. This is the first step. And then we can help you out with the product. I mean, you're, let's say, doing some customer discovery, you're gaining some of the traction that you need. Maybe you go to Techstars and you raise some money from them. And then at that point, once you have some of this momentum, or maybe you get a grant, you might be in a better position to step down from your full-time job and be 100% focused on the startup. So we know that's extremely difficult, but we have seen it happen multiple times. And there is a process, there is a pathway. So it's not impossible. Even if you're working full-time right now, you can still do it. There are some small grants and programs like our 10 plus 10 program that can help you get there.
Yeah, I think the non-dilutive funding is a big key there. And then that helps you gain the traction to make a good case that there's a chance for an exit, which is ultimately what we're looking for. So I think as we've grown the ventures business, we're looking a little bit further down. So not the earliest stage, but like Todor said, I think there still is a path. And oftentimes it's that non-dilutive funding into the 10 plus 10 that provides that path. And good to hear from you, Troy.
All right, any additional questions? I've just shared our website, email addresses, and you can use this link, the Calendly link, to schedule a quick conversation with Matt and myself. And we will be happy to talk about your startup, ask you some questions, and maybe provide you with some resources and information that you can leverage. So any last questions before we go?